Hey guys, I'm Alexei, and today I'm creating this cheeky character by Ox Creative, and we're going to be sculpting him. And later on, so this video is just going to be the modeling part, and later on we're going to be doing the materials and the hair and etc. in sequential parts. So let's get started.
Need rigs? Ace 5 Studios has rigs.
So let's get started. We're going to grab our reference, and if you middle click on your viewport, you can see a front view here, and we're going to just drag in this reference that we have, and it'll appear in the background. If this doesn't work for some reason, if you're on a Mac or something, just click on this viewport, press Shift V, and you'll have these options, and then go back. And here you can pick the image. Just click on this button, and you can pick it from the browser. And then let's make the transparency a bit lower. So when most people teach you to sculpt or talk about sculpting, they will usually make a sphere, and they'll tell you to make it editable, and then you'll go in the mesh here, the sculpt tools. Let's also get our brushes here. We could just load the sculpting interface, but I don't know, somehow I just do this. And then they tell you to subdivide a couple of times, and then you start drawing on it, and you have to draw an eye, and then you have to press Control to push it in. And they tell you to use the grab tool. But honestly, I don't really like this method of sculpting. I mean, it works, but I guess I'm just not artistically a sculptor. So I actually sculpt in a slightly different way. First, I block out the stuff that I want to sculpt. So for example, let's make our sphere and using our move tool. Now, I usually switch the sphere into, I think, one of these modes. There you go. Hexahedron. I can just scroll through these with my mouse. It's over here. And switch this guy to maybe 8 sections. No, that's a bit too much. Scroll up. There you go. 10 sounds good. And then we're going to click on this guy, and we're going to make it editable by clicking this button here, pressing the C key. And now we can go to point mode, and let's just roughly, let's rotate this guy around. Maybe select these points. You hold the Shift key to drag and select extra points, and the Control key to remove them. And if you want this rectangular selection, I'm actually using it. It's from here, but on my mouse, the forward button on the side of the mouse, you have this forward and back button. That's like if you click and drag with that little button, it'll make you a temporary rectangle selection, which is really handy. So let's move these guys up here. Maybe shape them like this, and move these buttocks out here. And we'll probably want to right click and go to our knife tool. So knife. Not here. They've moved it. I use shortcuts for this, so it's hard to remember. Maybe just press KK and you should get your, or KL, you'll get your loop cut. So there you go. So I'll add one here and then select these guys and scale them out, so that we have them. You can see from here we kind of getting this. Go KL again, and if you go to edge mode, you can use the move tool to double click this and scale it out a bit. And then KL to add this loop tool. And it's not really the shape that we want, is it? Let's drag these guys out. This isn't so much of an intro tutorial, it's more of a how I use the sculpting tools tutorial. Now at this point, we can actually use sculpting tools on just this. We can go to our point mode, make sure nothing is selected, and then we can smooth out stuff a bit. Maybe that's too much smoothing. Yeah, let's undo that. Let's just middle click down and drag the smooth down to make it just a tiny bit smooth. If you're using a tablet, you can just tap lightly on this. But this seems to be about the right amount of smoothing. Okay, let's hold the Alt key and add a subdivision surface. This is what this guy looks like right now. Not quite what we want. Let's get our grab tool and let's move these guys around. Maybe pull the bottom out a bit bigger. Until we get an approximate shape of what we want. Also from the sides, he's a bit fat, I think. I'll just move him in like this. So that seems about right, I think. I mean, he's at an angle there, so we've got to keep that in mind. Now, the next thing is we've got to add these little ass cheeks to him, right? So let's do that. Let's make a new sphere. Go into our move tool. Make sure this is also our hexahedron. Maybe bring this down to like 10, yeah. Make it editable. Now select these guys on the side and squash them together. So they're nice and flat with the scale tool and move them in. And I guess we're gonna have to scale the whole object in like this. Well, I'm switching between these modes here, the edge, polygon, and model tool. And I'm just using I have them mapped to my keyboard to 1, 2, 3, and 4, so I can quickly switch between them. It really helps when you're, making stuff, because I'm always switching between them. So let's align this guy to where approximately, don't worry too much about if this is super correct. And then let's just control drag another one. And this seems about where they should be. We can now select both of them, press Alt-G, and then Alt click on this thing and we put them both into a subdivision surface. Also, let's turn off our grid here. It's kind of distracting. Now, so I feel like we need both of these guys to be scaled up a bit, maybe out a tiny bit. And let's move each one. Let's maybe make them a bit wider. And also, I think we should probably select the points on this one, on both of them on the sides, scale them together a bit. Maybe select these guys as well. Maybe rotate them a bit. Oops. So that we have this kind of buttock shape. There you go. That seems about right. Now we might want to here or there. Let's go to our point mode, deselect everything, like grab them and push them a bit so they're a bit more lined up. And working on this from one angle, so the other side doesn't really matter. But let's push these guys in a bit as well. So there you go. And we want to add some legs to him. That's important, I think, here. So let's get our cube and let's move him to where the legs are. Scale him down to about the right width. Make it editable. Go into point mode and just scale these guys together. And maybe scale, actually, just scale the top out a bit. And move them here. And I guess move them up a bit so that we can try and figure out if we have the right shape here. Now, if we put it into a subdivision surface, you'll see it goes just round. So we go to our cube here, and we go to edge mode, and we go KL, and we add some cuts. Maybe that's too close. I think about there. Now we definitely need to scale this whole guy together so that he's more on the stumpy side like this. Does it look like there? Yeah, let's select these bottom ones and scale them in more. I think that's about right. Now we just select this top subdivision surface, go to move tool, and just control drag it over to make a copy. And there you go. We have two legs. We can move this one back a bit if we want. If we want it to line up. Now I think this generally covers the important part of the object. We can add some spheres just so we have it for the eyes, so we have an approximate understanding of where they should be. So like this one, and oops, move tool and control drag it, and this guy's going to be behind it somewhere here. So we have a kind of feeling of what this is looking like. Now, from what I'm seeing here right now, I kind of want to select this guy, and I want to grab. Let's add another loop cut. Let's go to move tool and edge mode. Let's add a loop cut here and here, just so we have a bit more control. Go back to our grab tool, and now we can kind of get more to this kind of shape that we want. I think that's a bit better. So we're going to be looking at this like at this angle. So let's get our eye and, oops, let's move him around so that his eye is kind of sticking out. Maybe we need to select all of these and just move them a bit here. I think the buttocks probably need to be enlarged. I think they're not a big enough part of this. Let's go. Let's name stuff as well, by the way, because we really aren't doing that. So let's scale this up. And now let's get our 2 legs. Let's move them so that we get a select both of them, maybe scale them out a bit. And let's select our body. And let's also go back to our grab tool here and let's drag it out so that it's kind of more enveloping of this whole area, because we're going to merge all these together, like we're going to clump them together like clay. So we should kind of not have any sharp edges. Okay, I think that looks about where we're trying to head. Now, the next step we want to do is we want to start merging these. Now, these eyes, I'm going to Alt-G these eyes. We're not going to merge them. They're just there for our entertainment. But all this, we're going to stick into, we're going to go to volume, we're going to go volume builder. I'm going to select all of these, except the eyes, and drag them into the volume builder. And as you can see, we get this kind of smoothed thing, but all these voxels aren't very helpful. But we can reduce the size of this to, say, 2. And you'll see it gets smoother, but now we also get these, we kind of get more defined, so a bit more mistake prone. What we can do next is, while holding Alt key and having this selected, we go and select volume, and we go volume measure. And this will make this into actual geometry. And here I think we should go back to maybe like a 5, so let's see it's smoother, because we don't really need that definition in this case. Maybe we can go back to 10. I mean, this is, yeah, we don't need the definition. I think this is better. And now we can adjust various parts. So for example, we go to body and we get our grab tool. And remember, we're still editing these points here. So we have actually, we're not really sculpting it. We're just kind of moving around the kind of underlying geometry. So like if you turn it off, we still have all our separate objects here. These are just kind of temporarily meshing them together. And we can also see, for example, these buttocks here, we can maybe spread them out a bit. Same with this one. So in this way we can see like where they need to be, so that we don't get any of these too weird lumps. Raise it a bit here. That seems about right. So we're basically just selecting them and then moving them. And these legs, I'm not super thrilled with these legs. Where are they? Legs. Maybe these things need to be narrower and the top needs to be, thicker. Yeah, I think that's about it. Maybe that's the problem. So this is basically just like, this isn't really production ready modeling. This is just like if you're a 2D modeler, you can get in and you can start creating stuff pretty easily. And now this is where the fun part kind of begins. Now we can increase this. We can see how this looks if the voxel size is down to 5. Now we get these edges. We can actually add a SDF smooth on top here. I think this is a bit too much. We can try different types of smoothing. Mean curvature, median. I don't really like it that much. Maybe just a bit of smoothing. I think that's about right. So basically, once we have this now, if you look at the mesh right now, it's really not a great mesh. I mean, we can still use it. We can, what I'm going to do is just go rename this to volume old or something. And press Control-C, Control-V, and put this into a group and hide it. And let's call this old stuff. And maybe turn it off so that it doesn't eat up any resources, like turn off these volume meshes. And just drag it to the bottom. And now this one, we're going to press C. And it'll make it into just a volume mesh. And now we can actually sculpt on this. So if we go to grab, if you want to hide this wireframe, it appears because you press the W key while you're in one of these sculpt tools. So now we can actually see we have this little edge here. We can get our smooth, and we can, by the way, middle click and hold down and drag left and right to make it bigger and smaller, and up and down to increase the strength. So now we can smooth these guys out, increase the strength here. You can see we can smooth out this edge, maybe these edges as well. And let's go smooth these guys so we don't get these like stepping effects here. And now we can use the grab tool to, for example, you move these, get a bit of a stronger crease here in the buttocks. We can even use this thing called inflate. So if you want, make it bigger and just make it very sweet, and we can start inflating to get the look that you want. As you can see, so we get this. And we can also start, for example, a good effect is, right now we don't actually need to even subdivide this for layers, but it is helpful. Having this selected, let's call this main body. Let's press subdivide. And we'll get this tag here and show layer manager. And we can just keep this floating here somewhere. And let's say we want to draw some skin folds like here. So let's make this a bit smaller. And let's just draw some skin folds. Now, what if I want to see what it looks like without these? Well, the thing I have to undo, and that's not very convenient. But with this layer manager, we can just right click and go add layer. And now we can draw them on. And then we can turn it off when we want. Very convenient system. So once we draw these, kind of rough them in, I usually just use a smooth thing on a very low value to just smooth it out so that, there you go. And now we have these little kind of skin folds. You will notice there's a bit of this kind of dirty kind of effects going on. Like it's not a very clean. If we use the grab tool, we can kind of move them around a bit to get so you get this kind of nice little look, and maybe squeeze them here so that, that's a bit too much. There you go. We can add these little kind of nice little effects. Maybe drag this up a bit. So yeah, small little kind of, you can add these little effects. Now, the thing is, right now we're working on this wireframe, which is not really quads. It's quads, but it's these weird kind of things. What we can actually do is, let's delete this sculpt expression for now. Cinema 4D has this really neat thing called where is it? Remesh something. There you go, remesh. Now, so hold the Alt key and put this object into remesh. And now, see, now we get a nice even quad. And we can change the density. So we can, for example, lower the density to, say, 29% or even lower, 17%. I'll probably go down to 5 if you want. There you go. And it's automatic and it's pretty fast. It's not perfect, again. This is not production ready. This is for sculpting needs. And now if we press make this editable, now we can actually use the regular sculpting tools much more effectively, because when we subdivide now, we can have this low level for making big changes. And then we can hit this a couple of times. And see here we have levels, so we can switch between levels of subdivision. And we can sculpt things on any of these layers and it'll propagate. So for example, if we're sculpting something on this layer, so let's say we draw our layers, our wrinkles, let's press the W key so we hide this. Let's draw our wrinkles. See how smooth they are? Without any of those nasty artifacts we were getting before. Now let's smooth it out a bit. Smooth these guys out. Didn't make these on a separate layer, I forgot about that, but for this demonstration, this will be sufficient. And then let's maybe shrink them together, maybe drag. But see how right now when we start moving stuff, like if we want to move this head, it's not, we're manipulating too many points. See, we get this kind of hard edge going on around here. So what we can actually do is we can go down back to level 0, where we can't see the wrinkles, but now we only have very little polygons. Now we can do much smoother changes. And it's also faster to make big changes here. And yeah, this is very handy. So we can scroll through and then the wrinkles are still there. And we can use the inflate tool here to just inflate this a bit. Maybe inflate it here as well. Let's use the grab tool here to just drag this down a bit. And let's use the inflate on the buttocks again. Maybe a bit of smoothing in the middle there so that it doesn't overlap as much. And we have this kind of, nice control. Like also we can use the draw tool here. If you hold the control down, you can push it in. Oops. Gonna press play button. You can push it out. Now these little pieces coming off. Maybe shrink those a bit. And then you just smooth all over this. You smooth it a bit more here on the edges, in the middle. And see, you get these nice kind of folds. So that's kind of how I like to sculpt. I'm not a pro of this by any measure of the imagination, but when I sculpt, I prefer to sculpt like this. And also don't forget the layers. That helps a lot because right now I didn't use layers, so I can't delete this. Actually, I can. I can use this erase button. So it is possible, but then it erases a lot of the other stuff that I did. So it's not, see, it erased. So it's not the best way to do it. Maybe I can erase with like see if I can change fall off. Smooth. You can hold the shift key to get definite temporary smooth, but yeah, it's not really it. I can just smooth this guy until there you go. You can just smooth them out to get rid of them if you want. So let's make a new layer for them. And let's draw my longer wrinkles. There you go. And then just smooth on top of them. Oops, too much smooth there. Middle click, drag down. Smooth the edges so they really blend in. There you go. And maybe grab them a bit together towards the middle. And also the cool thing about this is I can get this layer here and I can, see, if you have layers, you can decide how strong you want the effect. You can even increase it past 100 if you want, but that's kind of. So there you go. So we can add these really nice, and also don't forget pinch. Pinch is a super handy thing. Let's go back to our base layer here. Let's call this top wrinkles. And let's add another layer. Let's call this pinch because I didn't make a layer for the legs at the bottom here. And this one is very good for making little, say, sharper edges. I can smooth them out. I like using it on the ends of edges so that it kind of, and then smoothing it out so that it kind of narrows down so if we draw something like a line, we can first pinch it so that the edges are kind of like this, and then we can smooth it out so that we get this kind of, I don't know, it's a nice effect I like. Okay, so that's it for this part. Don't forget to subscribe to check out the next part, because the next part will be up soon. Thanks for watching, and as always, remember, if you need rigs, Ace5 Studios has rigs. We have free rigs up here that you can use in your personal projects. We have Marty and Mia and 5JPack for explainers and arms and legs, and Maria has a bunch of cats and animals you can use. And here, if you go through, Marty has a full face rig, which you can, it's lots of functionality. You can use them in your projects. Mia is also fully rigged. You can use her as a host or to sell your product. Also have the arms and legs pack, which you can put together to build your own characters. And they're already rigged, so you don't need to do any weight painting. You just have to stick them together and ready to go. Or you have 5J people for your explainer videos and other stuff. So don't forget to check it out and see you next time.